A big struggle trying to get things out that you want to produce.
I would be said that it challenges, but I think that's what I enjoy about it. And you know, if you don't.
The world can be a dark place. Some people hide the predator that lives inside them. Instead of his daughter comfort or truth, father handed her cameras, cold metal instead of warm answers. While other little kids played with dolls and laughter filled their rooms, 6-year-olds frozen under lights. Anthony wasn't just taking pictures, he was twisting angles and using his own daughter as a live subject for his film experiments. Tessa learned fast that being watched means being truly seen. That truth about how she handled fame later on. It was like her armor. But there's one moment that most people have no clue about. A memory buried deep in her childhood. She was performing in a kid's version of Antigone when something unexpected happened on stage. Instead of breaking character, little froze. Still, holding that pose like her depended on it. Even then, she grasped something most kids never do. The show always comes first. The performance mattered more than her feelings. That single childhood moment being risky inside. The idea could take any pain, pressure, as long as the story got told. And it did there. Her parents never picked her clothes, not.
I think you have to make it, you know?
Yeah.
And I think also the incredible opportunity to work with, you know, MD on this new Seeds about across America. It opens tomorrow in New York.
Once, from the moment she could, Tessa dream her own identity. Her dads and moms fixing them up with wild confidence. Picture it. Her dad's oversized t-shirts with belts, turning them into that scream creativity and rebellion. Tessa would pile on her mom's vintage jewelry until her tiny arms could move, shining like a walking treasure chest. And for her, it was about building her from the ground up, piece by piece, every single morning. When Mark came back from Paris with a boy's tweed suit and bright green suspenders for girl, it wasn't just a gift, it was a message. He was telling her she didn't have to fit inside anyone's boxes. She could be whoever she wanted, or that freedom like armor. Understood boldness. Which schools hit hard. Some kids couldn't handle her unique style, started calling her a grip because of her lace-up boots. The nickname stung, but even then, they refused in her light.
And it's these kind of stories that are so important that we don't get to see, especially folks that look like us. You know, we have charge of really taking our stories into the world and demanding that they be seen and saying that.
Teasing hit so hard that her mom snapped into action. No waiting, no hoping, no endless meetings with. She yanked Tessa out of that school without a thought. It was a move that carved a lifelong truth into Tessa's mind. When a place doesn't respect who you are, you don't shrink to fit in. You walk away. That moment changed everything. But here's what's wild. That same lesson be the foundation for something later on. As Tessa took that mindset and flipped it into her. She used it to tear down racial walls that divided her next school. At Santa Monica High, a huge campus.
And so I was in a music video when I was maybe like 6 or 7. So that was technically my first time on camera.
4,000, everyone stayed in their corners, split up by unspoken lines and quiet. Nobody crossed over. Tessa stepped in. She didn't wait for permission or approval. She made a move that stunned everyone. She organized a racial harmony weekend, pulling together 100 students from every background, barriers that teachers can touch. There were 20 students from each of racial groups, carefully chosen, equally represented. They started by writing stereotypes on boards in secret, the things people usually whisper but never say out loud. And face to face, they confronted those ugly perceptions, tearing them apart with honesty. And that weekend,
and he would often use me as his subject. He would test light and try to run his camera with the Super 8 or with tape or then digital.
Talk changed in classrooms, shared meals. Adults spend their whole lives and here's the was only 17. While she was leading these powerful social justice weekends and stealing the spotlight in school plays, she still had no clue that a career. To her, it was just another way to explore their emotions, their motives, their truths. So when she started studying anthropology at Santa Monica, it made perfect sense. She was understanding why humans do herself deep in the field, taking notes about communities she'd blend into, but fate had other plans. One random day, she decided to join a Los Angeles.
I think had moments of real vulnerability has a really hard time looking at her and being seen.
Angeles Women's Shakespeare Workshop just for fun, and that one impulse choice changed everything. They were something called dropping where instructors stand right behind and whistle memory sparks to their ears. A rose. When did you last receive one? A rose. When were you first given one? Question unlocked something personal, raw, and real. Suddenly, every line from Cher that once felt and burst to life with emotion. For the first time ever, the words made perfect sense to Tessa. It wasn't magic, it was skill. That revelation changed everything. She realized could be learned, mastered, and hard work. So she threw herself into it completely. she became an apprentice with the company, doing every job imaginable, floors, running errands, fetching props, stay close to the performance. Then fate struck again. One day during a major reading, meant to perform.
One of the first plays I ever didn't have a speaking role or anything. It was antique, and I just was a Greek goddess in the background, and I was maybe like 6 or 7.
Total chaos. Tessa to step in. Just like that, she was on stage, performing in front of everyone. Accent view that never went out. From there, she began formal traveling into the Meisner technique, where she learned her most powerful truth yet. Stop overthinking your moves and start truly listening to the person right in front of you. That's when Tessa realized something powerful. Listening mattered more than talking, not delivering lines perfectly. It was about feeling the moment, truly whoever stood across from her. Her first real break came when she landed a role on Veronica Mars. On that, she watched Kristen Bell with a mix of technical and raw emotion that left her speechless. It was like watching art happen in real time. Every gesture, every perfectly intentional, totally human. Then came Dear White People. And with it, Samantha, that role changed everything. For once, Tessa wasn't playing some figure or type. She was the next layered of the story.
And I had this toga that my mom had made me, and I just remember toga kind of fell and simple, but I was supposed to, it's like tableau.
Just the sub of the plot, she was the itself of contradictions, doubts, and fire. For the first time, to bring a character's inner world to life, and the audience felt every bit of it. But everything changed when Ryan Coogler to her with Creed. This wasn't just another audition, it was a whole new level of storytelling. Coogler didn't simply hand her a script and say, go act. Instead, he set up a camera, let her and Michael B. Jordan improv and recorded every raw, unfiltered moment. So spontaneous became the heart of what they eventually filmed. Coogler went deep, Bianca's zodiac sign, the kind of school she went to, even her greatest fears. Together, they built a character who felt painfully real, a woman.
And I just sort of like looking down at the nipple, but wondering if I should move that or if I should the tableau. And I stayed in that tableau, you know?
Facing hearing loss, but refusing to let it define her. Bianca, the victim, was fierce, creative, and unapologetically alive. To honor that truth, Tessa, she went all in. She learned American Sign Language herself to bring authenticity and every single scene. To bring Bianca to life, Tessa threw her deep into Philadelphia's heartbeat. She spent time in barbershops and salons, soaking in the city's rhythm through her veins. Every accent, every side conversation, every laugh, it all became part of her performance. That's when it truly hit her. Acting wasn't just about pretending. It was to become a vessel, someone through whom entire communities see themselves reflected with pride and dignity. She would go on to span 10 years of her life, a whole decade of growth both on and off screen, to witness Bianca young her dreams to a devoted wife.
And then also I quite liked that it was clothes, because then it was like a costume or a disguise. Suspenders, I loved pairing with also
to a resilient mother, each phase layered with deeper meaning. As Bianca's hearing loss quietly her strength grew louder. Few actors ever get the chance to inside a single role for that long. Every frame, every glance, every silence mattered. Then came the call for Thor, Ragnarok, and even though she'd faced some wild roles before, it wasn't the explosions that scared her. It was the wild imagination it demanded, and that pushed her far beyond anything she'd ever done before. On the Thor, Ragnarok set, surrounded by pure chaos and genius, like a total powerhouse, a baby with muscles, as she later joked, throwing himself into the wildest scenes with ounce of self-confidence. He didn't hold back for a second, and that fearless energy was contagious. Then there was Tom Hiddleston, focused, studying every CGI mark and set cue. He could picture the whole fantasy world around him, even when he was staring at a
and I could pick things from their closets. So there's to me in like one of my dad's t-shirts and then a belt that I would become a dress, or later I would all this jewelry from my mother. It was sort of aware that clothes were a way to express oneself. And
blank blue wall, he saw what the audience would eventually see. That kind of precision blew her mind. At TT, he ran the whole set line for grown-ups. He wanted everyone to act like infants accounts, just letting go of ego and fear, diving shit into the fun. Watching that wild freedom at work, cracking open and test, it unlocked a whole new for comedy. Fearless, loose, and completely alive. That experience taught something comedy courage Lucille Ball once talked about. It wasn't about trying to be funny. It was about being brave enough to look completely ridiculous. That kind of fearless honesty changed everything for her. This was another superhero role. It was groundbreaking. He became the first LGBTQ+ character test in a major franchise. A bisexual Asgardian warrior who drank to dull her pain but never lost her fire. When Marvel initially tried to tone down that side of Valkyrie, it pushed back hard to keep that truth alive, even if it only showed through the smallest glances or quiet subtext. By the time Thor, Love and Thunder had already been doing the work for years, fighting for real representation on screen. And here's the twist. Long before Truth, Tessa had already shared her own. In 2018 interview, spoke with honesty and care, saying, "I'm attracted and also to women." It was simple, genuine, and powerful. A moment that reflected not her character's courage, but her own. Tessa opened up about her deep connection with Nye, saying they vibrated on the same frequency. And that single phrase sent the in frenzy. Headlines, endless tweets, everyone wanted answers, labels, clarity, any of it. She refused to squeeze her into a box to make comfortable. She wouldn't say bisexual or queer or any label that didn't feel completely hers. And honestly, that defiance made perfect sense. She had already learned that identity wasn't about choosing one side. It was about exploring all of it. She'd wear her dad's suits one day, her mom's dresses, and sometimes tuck her hair up just to see what it felt like to walk through the world as someone else. For gender and sexuality weren't rules. They were playgrounds, wide open spaces for curiosity, movement, but that kind of freedom always comes at a price. Her refusal to made her a symbol of authenticity, but to others, it sparked confusion, criticism, and the endless pressure to explain who she was when all she wanted was to just be. Tessa found herself in hot water when she appeared in a Time's Up photo alongside Lena Dunham, who had publicly defended someone accused of sexual assault. The backlash and brutal. Tessa apologized, clarified her, and tried to explain the misunderstanding, but the forgets. The damage lingered like smoke that wouldn't clear. Being a fluid woman in Hollywood with an impossible spotlight got analyzed, every comment twisted, every silence turned into a statement she never made. But instead of letting that weight crush her, Tessa just kept moving, head high, no apologies for existing loudly. Then came Sorry to Bother You, a whole new kind of challenge, and it's to reinvent herself again. She dyed her hair in 6 bold colors, helped shape the entire aesthetic from the ground up, and built a character that living art directly gave her total creative freedom. Wear what you want, move how you want, just make her real. And that's exactly what she did. Her performance was wild, unpredictable, so unique that critics didn't even know how to. But her next project demanded a whole different internal and Larson's asked Tessa to spin into the world of Irene Redfield, a light-skinned black woman navigating the tight social and racial lines of teen Harlem. It was a story layered with quiet, Tessa commitment. But behind the scenes, pressure was the studios wanted the film shot in color. The story reshaped to focus more on the white male character, typical Hollywood interference. Yet Rebecca Hall compromised, and Tessa stood right beside her, not just as the lead actress, the producer, patiently waiting until the movie the right way. The decision to film in white wasn't for style, it was everything. Without it, the illusion of passing between races would have fallen apart. The narrow aspect ratio made every tight, almost perfectly capturing the quiet clock of living between identities. Every single creative choice served the story, about race, performance, and the pain of being seen. That haunting performance earned Tessa her BAFTA nomination for Best Actress in a Leading Role, recognition that to the industry, her range reached far beyond superheroes and blockbusters. Writing that, she launched her own company, Eva Maud Productions, named after Harold and Maude, a film that but turned into a cult classic 11 years later. It was her way of saying, greatness doesn't always show up loud, it just lasts. Tessa built her production company with one mission in mind, to back projects that were bold, strange, and maybe even ahead of their time. She didn't want predictable stories or easy comparisons. She wanted the kind of films that made people think, what did I just watch? First bit under Viva Maud was Hedda. Director Nia Costa to her with a fearless pitch. Taylor Ibsen's Hedda Gabler, reimagined in 1954, woman. Brings up even more. One of the main male characters was reimagined as Eileen, the entire story queer and layered with fresh tension. Hesitate, she said yes before even reading the script. Her trust in Nia ran deep. A decade earlier at the Sundance Labs, when Nia was just 25 and full of vision. Back then, she'd looked Tessa in the eye and said, when I make this movie, make it with me, not if when. To her word. 10 years later, Nia had become one of Hollywood's rising forces, having already directed Candyman, and by this point, Tessa had solidified herself as one of Hollywood's most fearless and versatile actors. And when she reunited with Nia Hedda, the result was a 134-year-old and turned it into something that felt alive, dangerous, and beautifully modern. The film set queer women who refused to play by anyone's rules, and their chaos was nothing spectacular. Playing Hedda demanded everything from Tessa. This was a woman who didn't shrink her society. She expanded, dominated, manipulated, and destroyed anything that tried to box her in. Every move was driven by rage and a desperate hunger for freedom. Mirrored that tension. They filmed in a real English manner with suffocating restrictions. no running water, and the actors were only allowed to rest in the drafty area between takes. It was real, and Tessa did it once. Filming, she stayed in a tiny, isolated cottage nearby, completely alone, letting headers deep into her bones. It haunted the walls, even her sleep. But that's her performance. I couldn't shake her off, not even when the rolling. At night, followed her like a shadow she couldn't outrun, who normally kept strict boundaries between her work and her real life. This role broke all her rules, had her come to her completely, but that paid off. Her performance was so raw and magnetic that it earned her a 2025 Gotham Award nomination for Outstanding Lead Performance and a Golden Globe nomination for Best Actress. Critics couldn't stop talking about her intensity, calling her magnetic, riveting, and a force of nature, proof that complex period drama just as powerfully as she ruled the Buster world. Yet behind the spotlight, there's something few people know. Tessa almost never watches her own movies. She shows up at premieres with her family, smiles through interviews, but when her face appears on screen, she quietly uncomfortable, and once the premiere's over, she rarely reads her work again. Hedda, though, was different. Star and to watch every version, cut over and over. First, it felt unbearable. Learning to view herself through an editor's made her with her own image, more forgiving, more grounded, keeping that momentum rolling. She's teamed with Nia DaCosta again for 28 years later. In the zombie saga. At the same time, she's through her Viva Mod, including Fears, The Secret Lives of Church Ladies for HBO. And through it all, she's staying true to herself, continuing for mental health awareness, LGBTQ plus visibility, and authentic storytelling, all while refusing to let Hollywood or anyone to a single label. Tessa Thompson's net worth sits at around $4 million. A modest figure, but that's exactly how she wants it. She's not the biggest paychecks, chasing meaning. She takes his care, built around stories that actually say something. Her view on fashion still runs deep. It's not just its identity. She literally wears her philosophy on the word yes tattooed on one arm and no on the other. A nod to Yoko's famous art piece, the one that first connected with John Lennon. It's her reminder that life's power lies in choice. When her mood dips, she doesn't run for red carpets or gowns. Instead, she wraps herself in oversized sweaters, soft, warm, and safe. She says those layers don't hide her, they hold her. For tenderness means more than armor. It's about allowing herself to be open, even when it hurts. She's learned that vulnerability can be its own kind of strength. The walls she's a child, her father's harsh lights, performing instead of being seen, slowly, carefully started to pull away. And here's the secret, changes how you'll watch her forever. Tessa Thompson doesn't believe acting is about transformation. It's about expansion and reduction. She doesn't disappear into a role. She adjusts the volume on who she already is. She amplifies certain parts, softens others, till the truth of a character rises to the surface. Hedda's cruelty, to Tessa, Detroit's wildness, her too, his resilience, his strength, they all live somewhere inside her. Every performance isn't her being someone new, or revealing another hidden corner of herself. Tenderness runs through every role she's ever played isn't a mask, just a different dial turned up on the same beautifully good human being. Every time you've watched her on screen, she wasn't disappearing into someone else. Glimpse another hidden side of herself. The rage, the control, the chaos, the humor, the heartbreak, it's all her. Tessa's not hiding behind her characters. She's revealing her truth through them, moment by moment. Each performance becomes a confession, raw, fearless, and human. That's what makes her so unforgettable. Pretend to be, she just dares to be real. So if you felt something watching her work, it's because you weren't just seeing a role, if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, a comment about what role moved you the most.